Thank you. All right. Thanks, Mike. You guys hear us?
Zach, how are you? Good to see you. I like the shirt. I like the shirt.
Huh?
Oh, oh yeah. I thought it was.
That time of year.
Yeah.
Talking about Jack's shirt.
I know. I noticed Paul's got
Yes,
the tie on too. So
everybody's noticing. Good.
Jack's calling in from Margaritaville.
I wish.
all right, folks. So we're live.
Hello, Karen.
On air. So I'm going to call this meeting of the advisory committee to order. Welcome everybody. Good to see everyone here, healthy and safe. Right?
Sure thing.
All right. So the one quick item, Bill Keegan, town manager, was just here, and he mentioned the article stabilization ad, which is what, 5 or 6 or 7. So there's no issues with that. That article is fine as voted and as written. He pointed out there was also $100,000 already in the budget for stabilization, meaning, hey Brian, meaning that now we have 200,000 allocated to the stabilization fund for 2020.
Where's the other line item other than the article?
It's basically in Article 4. So there's 100,000 that sits in Article 4 and another 100 in the article for the stabilization ad.
I thought it required an article because it was more than $100,000 and more. It had to be voted on, right? Separately.
Yeah, we could look into that. But if it was part of Article 4, so we voted on it as part of that. We need to look into whether there was an issue with that. There's a reason we split it out as its own separate article, so we can look into that. But at the same time, I think I'm comfortable with 200,000
I'm too.
in reserve, rather than the other way of dropping to zero. So
Right.
we can research.
I think this has been the trend of what we've been doing the last couple of years, is that it has its own separate warrant articles for the stabilization fund.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So maybe more to come on that, but I just wanted to give you guys the heads up. I just heard now, and I told Bill that that's, if we're going to err, I'd rather err in that direction. So anyway, so if we move on to our first and really only agenda item, we'll talk about annual town meeting for a bit after we vote the minutes. So why don't we move on to that? Tom, the minutes for 4/22 and 4/29, they looked fine to me, but I was looking through my notes and I didn't get to it where those are already voted.
Those were voted with the corrections I was going to make, and then I was planning to send them out, but then we were going to have the other ones to all vote, and I'll have them all edited and sent to you guys for signatures, and you can post them.
So minutes of April 22 and April 29 are voted and good.
Right.
All we have to do is print these out and sign them and get them into the record, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to sign them. I'll send you the copies, unless you want me to scan in your signatures on those copies. It's up to you. I haven't done that in the past, so just.
So meaning you would just take my signature from a prior version, and is that what you mean?
Well, no, I usually try to put the signature page as a separate page, and then, or at least separate it from all the rest of the stuff. But as I've been doing this for the last couple of years, all I do is I just usually just send to the chair the finished item, this finished file,
Yeah.
and then I would assume that you forward that
yeah.
on to the clerk to upload.
Yeah. Okay.
Whoever does the upload
All right. I'll figure it out. This is what we have is good. So okay.
No one told me really what they do regarding the signature page versus just the upload without signature. So I just send the file, and I've never had you or Susan or Bernard never sent me back copies of the signed page to scan in with them. So you guys have a raw file, and you deal with the clerk.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, I've just taken the paper copy you bring in, I sign it, and I put it in the mailbox.
Oh.
So
Yeah,
I'll just,
we're not
I'll just print
we're not
off
coming in these days.
a copy or something, and, so anyway.
Right.
So those are voted and approved. Okay, so moving on to May 6th. May 6th, so I'm just gonna pop this open. I already looked at this, it looked fine to me. But I'll pop it open, and if anyone has any corrections or questions or items of revision on the May 6th meeting, feel free to point them out to the rest of the committee. I move to vote to approve the minutes for the May 6th, 2020 meeting as.
Seconded.
All those in favor, show of hands, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Who seconded?
Dan seconded.
Dan did? Okay.
Dan, and then I saw 9 in
Yep.
favor, 0 opposed. Very good. Thanks, everybody. Then we will move to May 13. Administration, this was our revenue presentation, so this was a fun night.
Okay, so right, Dennis is the only one we're missing tonight. Okay.
What's that, Tom?
I guess the Dennis is the only one we're missing tonight.
Yeah, hopefully he jumps on, because he was actually.
In Seth, I got an email from Dennis and he was asking for the link, so I forwarded it to him. but
Okay,
I'm sure he'll jump on.
okay, so we'll save any annual town meeting conversation for when he jumps on, which I'm sure will be any moment. All right, so May 13, we had some good discussions, local receipts. Bill Keegan was there, Bill Yukna. Tom has
Whole gang.
good notes, yep. Tom has excellent minutes as always. Anything that anyone wanted to call out as something they wanted to update or refine or change or what have you? Going once. All right, so
There was only 2 votes on that. There was the vote on the CIP and there was a vote on the whole revenue budget.
yes, the capital.
Yeah, the capital.
The capital, and it looks like there's somebody trying to get a mic. I don't know. They might just be paying a bill or something. I don't know. Oh, yeah.
It's Dennis. Dennis is here.
Yeah,
Oh, hey, Dennis. So Dennis, we were just voting minutes. All you missed was May 6th vote. Did you have any issues with the May 6th minutes as they were written? We voted them unanimously in favor of
yeah,
as written.
Looking at my, the areas I was referenced, they look fine.
Okay, so in that case, I have probably no need to go back and revote then. If
Okay.
you're okay with that? So, moving on to May 13th, Dennis, we just sort of opened the floor, and thus far, it sounds and feels like everyone is comfortable with as written, so I was going to make a motion, but I'll give you the opportunity to question or comment any of the detail.
No, I'm good.
All right, in that case, I make a motion to accept the May 13th, 2020 meeting minutes as written.
Second.
Who was that?
Is that Dennis?
That's Brian.
Oh,
Brian,
Brian.
okay.
Thanks, Brian. So all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right. 10 in favor, Tom? 0
Yep,
opposed.
got it.
Thank you. All right. May 20. May 20, 2020.
I just had a minor spelling. Down towards the end, under Article 11, under my comment, it says the manner, and it should say the major item. So just
Okay,
replace the N with the J.
okay.
What page is that? I mean, I don't care. That's a logical change.
I thought you were going to complain I spelled their name wrong. Okay,
Article 11. Okay. Yep. You got that, Tom? Anything else, anybody?
I'm just looking to see like, if anything else. 3, 10, Article 11. Oh, okay. Yep. Okay. Got it.
All right.
Probably couldn't read my own writing. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Nope.
In that case, I move to accept the meeting minutes for our May 20th meeting as revised by Sharon's recommendation.
My second.
That was Sharon, so all those in favor, please show me your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, that is 10 in favor, Tom. 10 in favor,
Okay.
0 opposed.
Sure thing. Great. Thank you.
Excellent.
And thanks for trusting me.
Tom, you know what? I could just make that revision myself, right? Like, then I would have everything here, right?
Yeah.
What page
I'm
is
going to
that
forward
on?
you. Tonight I'm going to just forward you all final copies of everything, anyways, just
All right,
if you want.
all right, very good.
That way the header will be final. That's all. Yeah.
Right.
As voted.
Great. All right, so that's minutes, right? That's all set. So the other thing, or the other item that's not necessarily agenda item, it's just sort of general advisory committee conversation, is I think there was some interest in just having a quick conversation about procedural stuff for the town meeting. So it'll be a little bit different this year with social distancing and those considerations. But a lot of the stuff will be the same. I don't know if we'll do the pomp and circumstance of like introducing people and, presumably we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. But at any rate, as far as our piece, is there anyone on the committee that wants to just talk through the process for how we do what we do at town meeting? Okay, so
Yes.
who's that, Bernard?
No, Seth, to your point, I was just going to mention that since we've been doing this pretty much quite a bit of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. From a big picture standpoint, usually what happens is that the moderator, so Frank Spillane, usually engages everyone either individually or collectively and provides feedback in terms of how to read first the motion. And from the motion, read from the basically article summary, let's call it in plain English, of what the article is all about. And then we proceed for voting. At times there can be a request for holding, at which point I believe that Bob Cutler keeps track of if there is something to be held. Steph, I'm not sure if you think there's anything I may have missed.
No, that's pretty much it, and that's sort of from start to finish. And if I was just going to boil it down to make it like, when I came in, I would want like the second grade version. It's basically Frank hands you the motion, which is related to the article that you were assigned and did the write-up for. You read the motion exactly as it's written on the page, word for word. Once you're done reading, you put it down and you say, okay, folks, this is how the advisory committee voted. If you explain a little bit about the details, because the motion is very like lawyer speak in a way. So you can give like as Bernard said, the real speech, or like, explain it in normal everyday speech, and then give a quick reference or idea of why the advisory committee voted as we did. So explain why we voted, and that's pretty much it. I mean, we're not expected to be experts on any of these topics included in the articles. If there's any expert testimony needed, it's always it's town management. It's Chris Gallagher or it's Bill Keegan or so it's no worries about like we're going to get put on the spot. We're just representatives of the townspeople, like the regular people who just did a little more research to be informed and to give the townspeople an idea of how to vote. So it's pretty low stress. And it's an interesting night and stuff for the most part. It can drag on a little bit, but it's really just read the motion, explain, and then have a seat and enjoy the rest of the show.
Hey Seth, when I send that back out, I'll make a note for each of the articles that we voted on, what the AdCom vote was, so that if you are presenting, you can have it in front of you.
Yeah, and I think it's also in our recommendations.
Okay.
It's definitely in the recommendation. But yeah, if it's there too, that's great, Tom. Appreciate that.
All right.
Is there any other of the members or sort of seasoned members that Jack, go ahead.
We got copies of the proposed motions that we had to read. I think Larry sent them out.
Yeah, just like an hour or so ago, yeah.
Yes, and as I look at Article 10, that's a great one to waive the reading. It's the Mets and bounds of a couple of properties. Really, nobody's going to follow or care.
Oh, the property swap?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how we prime the proper authorities to propose waiving the reading of that.
They're still going to read it.
Usually it's up to Frank. He will make the motion to waive the reading. There are certain articles you have to read, like the budget, but you are right. Anything with the zoning, he will save you and ask for a motion to waive.
If you try to read through Article 10 and keep a straight face, you're pretty good.
We will be by the time we're done reading.
Jack, the article that Frank, the article that Frank had me read last year, Jack, was a whole page long. I think I needed a water break in between.
Yeah. Yeah, I can get.
I can't remember which article it was.
A little cumbersome
Jack,
after a while.
Jack, if you want, you can talk to Frank before the meeting. He'll tell you if it's critical that has to be read. He'll tell you. If not,
I don't want reading. It's just a waste of time.
Yeah, I know. You can talk to him before the meeting. Say, you're going to make a motion. He'll say yes.
Yeah, you put a bug in his ear, and he'll decide. I think he puts that to a vote, right?
Right.
He puts whether it's read or not to a vote.
No objection.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Any other?
I will object.
Yeah. It's always fun to be the one person who's the contrarian of the group.
Yeah.
Hey, Seth, what do you know at this point about the actual mechanics of the meeting?
Like in terms of social distancing and all that kind of
Yes,
thing?
yeah. Yep.
I don't know a lot, but I expect, so Larry, did you actually get onto that meeting tonight?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you take anything away from that?
Yeah, Paul, there was a legal counsel that was advising all the towns on how to do a meeting and all the social distancing. But I'm sure there were members of the board of directors that attended the conference too. So I am sure between Keegan, the Keegan and the board of selectmen, and maybe the health inspector, I'm sure they'll come up with all the protocols we have to do. But
And
I
Frank
think at the
too,
very
right?
least, bring your mask to the meeting
Sure.
so you don't get kicked out.
That's probably a good idea. Yeah, have your, what do they call them? PPPs or PC?
PPs.
Yeah.
The whole
have
outfit
that.
if you want, Seth.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the stage, frankly, the stage is pretty crowded.
Yep.
The Board of Selectmen and the advisory committee and the moderators and why can't I remember Bob Cutler's, the office of the
Clerk.
clerk. Oh my God, why I struggle with that so often. Clerk. So it's pretty crowded. So I think we should probably be prepared to wear our PPDs. Outside of that, any additional information that I get on that, Paul, I'll certainly share with this group for sure.
That'd be good, and I assume they're going to publish something as well, right? People who
That's a fair
attend
point, too.
every year
Yeah,
are going to be thinking about
right,
that.
Right. So I agree that we'll see some we'll get some direction on that along with the rest of the town, but we could probably find out more. I could check with Bill or something. I sent our recommendations up to Bob Cutler so that he has them, and then I also was going to put them onto he was going to read them over. Everyone that I've sort of shared them with for editing, reviewing, no one's pointed out any major issues, so I expect I will just goes to the Foxborough patch webpage, and the next day we have we have a few more days left, but I'll probably get that up there tomorrow. So if you had any last second issues with the recommendations, let me know, because those are going to go up.
Seth, the latest copy of the recommendations I have here are from 9 days ago. Is that the most recent?
So I think the only thing that would have been updated would be Article 4. We had some back and forth with Bill, and Bernard was involved because he's the Article
Reading
4 committee member. Outside of that, everything was the same. Sharon's article had a few minor changes, but I think that was included in the most recent. So,
okay.
So
And then second question is, did they change the quorum limits for this meeting? I wasn't following that. So did they reduce them?
I haven't heard anything along those lines. I don't know that. If anyone else has any
So we have
thoughts
to
on
get more than 200 people in there, huh?
I thought 100 was a quorum.
Oh, it's 100?
Yeah,
I think it's 100.
I don't think we get 200. By the end, we're below 200 normally, so I think 100 is,
Right.
yeah,
Huh. Okay.
yeah,
Seth, I have a question.
sure.
On Article 5, it's very straightforward. and then there's a table right under Article 5,
The motion.
right?
Are you referring to the motion or the recommendation?
I'm referring to.
The motion you just would have received
Yeah, the
today.
motion,
Yep.
and then underneath there's a table, and then there's a funding summary, and then there's attachment A. Attachment A is actually more straightforward and less confusing than the summary that's under the motion.
Yes. They're both, so they're both there. And you're saying that, are they redundant?
No, they're not. I mean, the table under the motion has a number of areas that weren't funded at all, like police is a good example, and maybe some others. So,
Oh, okay. It's got extraneous stuff in there?
yeah, it's extraneous.
Yeah. You know, we could, so I think Bill, I think on his way out tonight, he stopped in briefly. I think he said he was the final tomorrow. So if you wanted
Hey,
to
sir?
shoot him a note or shoot me a note, and I could forward it with that feedback, we could try to, in the 11th hour, try to get in some revision to make it read better. You know what I mean, Dennis?
Right, you could almost have it be the same as the attachment A, appendix A.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
Dennis, I have a question. You're referring to Article 5, and you mentioned about the blank zero, like a dash for the police. But am I right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a column of FY20 appropriated. I'm not sure why that.
Because you're talking about if I'm looking at the right thing, that's the CIP, correct?
Right.
If it's a CIP, the police department did not request anything.
Yeah, but so why are they even there?
I don't know, but I mean, I think they just list all of the departments, but maybe they want to show the town the police didn't ask for anything. But
I mean, if I'm a citizen, I'm getting
confused.
If I'm a citizen, it's a confusing table. Appendix A is very straightforward. It really speaks to what was approved, and then it identifies the funding source. Very straightforward, not confusing. I found this other one confusing.
There's no need to read that other one, is what you're saying. Just go right to Appendix A.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's what makes sense.
Well,
Yes,
there's nothing assigned for police on the table.
correct.
Right.
Correct. I think you would jump straight to the appendix Schedule A. If not, you're just going to confuse the heck out of everybody in the town.
I would suggest that the reason they have this, what are we calling this table ahead of the schedule? I would suggest the reason they have it here is to show that all the committees were holding hands on this number.
And that it went down in a lot of cases.
Yeah, but nobody sees that table. This is what's read at town meeting. It's not like this is published anywhere.
Oh, everybody will have a copy that brings it, that come in with it. People who probably won't get a copy are anybody who's watching town meeting online, but they're not gonna be able to vote online. They'll be able to watch it.
No, Tom, town meeting is recorded, not live.
Oh, it's not gonna be live this week?
We clarified that the last two meetings, and Cutler said no, or somebody said, either Cutler or somebody said, town meeting is recorded,
Okay.
but not live.
Well, people are saying that it's gonna be live. You can watch it, just like you can watch the graduation. Okay, just
I don't think so.
wanna
So, but
clarify.
they still will be handing it out when when everybody comes in the door, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. Correct, you get this nice printout.
Yeah, but what they'll be handing out is our recommendations, not the wording of the motion to be read.
Yes, they will.
Well, they haven't in the past.
Two, I believe you get both, Jack. You
get both.
you get the actual town stuff, and then you get the AdCom, what we call the AdCom recommendation.
Yeah.
You get the warrant. You get the warrant, and the recommendation. You don't get the wording that's actually read.
Correct. So to answer one of the questions somebody said was the warrant that the email that I sent everybody about an hour ago, that's the actual warrant that will be given out to everybody that showed up to the meeting. And then the AdCom recommendation will be given. And then what Jack, you said is that what we stand up to read, that legal part, that one is only for AdCom. So technically there are three things. Two things will be handed. The one that we all stand up and read, and we hand the paper back to Frank. That one is not given to anyone. You're right.
Yeah, so there's the only things, what are we calling this table above Schedule A? It's in large part, it is redundant because the funding source is listed in both places. The funding summary is unique to the top part, or the page 11 schedule, right? Free cash 387, so that's unique. The other thing is the top page 11 schedule shows 2020.
Yeah.
So I think that's something they're trying to call out to say, hey, went 3.6 million and now we're down to 1.6, that type of thing. So there is a lot of redundancy there. I would suggest that they are going to want to keep that in. We could call it out, Dennis. I think they're going to say, no, we want that in there for those couple of things, but at this point, I don't know that they're going to work it out. We could still ask about it though, if you want.
Yeah, I guess, now that we're talking about it, it looks like they're comparing what was appropriated in FY20 to what's being recommended this year.
Yes.
Going from 3.5 million to 11 million. And that's really the only purpose of that column. A lot of the things, so that a number of areas that were appropriated last year got carried forward, but there's no appropriation this year. I guess that was my only point.
So when you say 11 million, Dennis, I know that includes the water borrowing, but I don't.
That includes the water borrowing and the water retained earnings.
But I don't see that in Article 5. So I'm wondering why you referenced that here.
Oh, it's in Appendix A.
Appendix A. Oh, I'm looking at Schedule A. Okay, so Schedule A is on page 12, and you're looking at Appendix A, which is where? Where's Appendix A?
It's right. It's in Article 5.
So you're talking about
is the first table, and then on the next page is Appendix A.
So ours says Schedule A. Does yours not say Schedule A?
That's Appendix A.
Okay, and yours shows 11 million.
Yeah.
The one that we received today, that Larry sent to you like an hour and a half ago, maybe, shows 1.6 million. You guys, does everyone else agree with that, or am I having version control issues?
Why is it only 1.6 million? Did they take the borrowing out?
Because the borrowing is a separate article, so we're showing them mutually exclusive.
Okay. All right, so I need that. Larry, when did you send that? An hour and a half ago?
Larry, on mute.
About 4:30, give or take.
2.5.
2 hours ago.
2 hours.
3 hours ago, about 4:30.
Oh, we're good at math here.
The motions that are to be read.
Oh, boy.
Says the proposed wording of what's to be read shows 11 million, not 1 million. It includes the 9.4 in Article 5.
All right, now I give up. I don't know where we have version control issues because I don't see anything about 11 million in Article 5. Unless,
It's in the wording that's to be read.
the words, okay.
I don't see it in there either.
To see if the town will vote to adopt a capital improvement plan, raise appropriate transfer funds, requested for the purpose here listed in Schedule A, to implement CIP, town to take any other action there to. Jack, can you point out exactly where you see $9.4 million in the words?
This is in the wording that we are to read at town meeting, not
The motion.
But what you're reading is from the warrant, but earlier tonight, Larry sent out the wording that that we are proposed to read at town meeting, and that does include,
The motions.
as Dennis points out, a rather confusing table followed by an Appendix A, which is much cleaner.
So we were reading two different things, that's why.
So there's the motion, so you're referring to the motions.
The funding summary of Table A has the 9.4 million in there, to make it 11 million.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you're
but-
looking at a document that would have been sent out on yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, to further compound it, maybe we can work this out offline, because I don't want to be wasting everyone's time, but the update from Larry is a completely different
Right.
table than what I had been working on.
Yeah, the water enterprise on the table we have that Larry sent out today has 240,000 for water enterprise. It doesn't have the 9.4 million in there.
Right, and it is 1.6 million.
Yeah.
So is that the table now that we're going with in terms of this latest mailing?
So it sounds like there's discrepancies between the warrant and the motion, so let me circle back with Bill on that and follow up with you guys.
Gotcha.
Is that fair? We should be able to clear that up pretty quickly. It feels like the motions are not finalized, whereas the warrant feels closer to completion here. All right, so I'll shoot a note to Bill this evening, and he's good about responding, so you guys should hear from me tomorrow on.
Right,
what the
and we
situation
just
is.
read the motion, not the warrant, right?
Yeah, so the motion is what Frank will hand to us to read into the record for town meeting.
Okay.
That said, I'm not quite sure why they'd be different or what the difference is. Tom or Larry or anyone who's been around a while, Bernard, any thoughts on motion versus warrant literature?
Usually the motion comes right out of what the warrant is, but it's obviously we've got the expediency of being able to just walk over to an office and correct something is lost today under our scenario. So I'm sure there have been emails that have passed back and forth, and sometimes people cut and paste and don't update the most recent thing. So if we bring it to their attention and Bill says, "Oh, that's what it is," they used the previous copy. That might be the simple explanation as to what's going on here. I attribute it more to the fact that people are dealing with everything is electronic right now, as opposed to being able to have a conversation, point something out, or circle on red pen saying, "Hey, move this." Instead, you're sending emails, and hopefully it's read and understood without further conversation, but you don't know how long it's going to take for somebody to actually read those things.
Yeah.
Doing anything electronically.
And actually, Seth, adding to Tom's point, the motion is really, I think you've mentioned it so well before, it's written in kind of a legalese language.
Yes.
Right.
Right after the motion is read, whomever is going to present the article remits back the motion to the moderator.
Right.
Who files, I guess.
Right.
And then, only then, the actual article is summarized in, let's call it in English.
Right. The
Right,
motion is
so-
what actually gets logged as the official wording for the thing. So what's on the warrant and what
Correct.
we say in our synopsis is not official, but the motion is the official writing piece.
The warrant is not official, but the motion is what,
Motion is what gets voted on.
right.
The motion before the floor is this motion, and here's what we're voting on, is this wording. And, there can be people who can make amendments on the floor and vote for that to change the motion. So the motion is what actually gets voted on. That's the legalese, as Bernard was saying. The synopsis that we say, to put it in simple speech, is just the AdCom's.
Yeah, exclude that. That I understand is just our commentary.
The warrant is simply just an announcement that this is what's going to be brought before the town and the information as of when it was proposed.
I understood that the motion was the legal wording to the warrant.
Yes. Right. Because that's what actually gets voted.
Sharon, you saved it best.
Right.
Yeah,
The town's not voting on the warrant, they're voting on the motion.
right, but, okay, so when we received the motions, and Bernard and I and Larry were going back and forth on Article 4 a little bit, having a conversation, because Article 4 in the motion references the revenue side of the equation, of the budget. Then so we didn't feel that didn't feel right to us. We recall that it was the expense budget that we spent the time on at town meeting, and referenced the funding source for the expenses. We subsequent to that, we received from Bill the warrant that included the detail that we were expecting, the operating budget side, expense. So I think the three of us were like, okay, we're all set. This is what we want. But now we're saying, okay, the motion looks so much different than the warrant that it just doesn't feel right to us anymore. So either way, I think I need to get to Bill and make sure that I understand, and that we understand any differences, because discrepancies are not, appropriate here where, okay, the motion is the official, but if we voted on something that's not different than what the motion is, that feels improper.
Right, especially in these circumstances, we don't want any kind of thing that's gonna impugn the integrity of all this, or make people think that there's something subterfuge going on. So yes, please just get a confirmation that the motion matches what the warrant is actually saying. If they have to change I don't know if they can change the wording of the warrant, but they can also make an amendment on the floor before the town meeting to say the warrant was printed 2 weeks ago, whatever it has to be. There was a mistake that wasn't caught, and here's what the situation is.
Yeah.
And this is why the motion now covers this wording as opposed to what was originally in the warrant. I mean, that can be adjudicated at town meeting by Frank.
And Seth, to your point,
Well, the town clerk can do it too, yeah.
Seth, to your point, Article 4, at least as far as we are concerned, we voted on the spending. That's what we have control of. We didn't vote on the revenue. The revenue is basically coming from all these different sources where we have no control. And so that's why I know that we kind of insist, as you properly said, there seems to be a disconnect.
Right.
But one is talking about completely the different side of the P&L.
Yeah, and I shot the note to Bill. He forwarded that to George Samia, and I got a call from George like midday. I was tied up for the rest of the day, so presumably he had some feedback, but I don't know what that is. I was hoping to get an email back so that we could have, everyone could be involved in that conversation and that, chain of thought, including you, Bernard. So that didn't happen, so I'll just have to follow up.
Hey, Seth.
So Seth, so a couple of things, if you're going to be talking to Bill. So Article 5 in that table under Article 5, it has the water enterprise and the sewer enterprise in there at 9. And then that article calls for the CIP to be, recommendations to be approved. However, Article 9 then asks for the borrowing to be approved. So can you approve the CIP budget without the borrowing having been approved yet in Article 9? And there's no Schedule A. I have attachment Appendix A. So those two articles, there's been some change in thinking about the handling of those two articles that I...
Dennis, I'm reading the chain of emails between Keegan and his admin. They were talking about, you're right, one part is schedule, one part is appendix. They were supposed to fix it if you follow the chain of emails. So you're right, there's an inconsistency between what they're calling. One section described as listed as Schedule A below, and when you go to Schedule A below, it says Appendix A. So there's a lot of things being, I guess, inconsistent. But you're right on that one too. Appendix and schedule. Everybody's correct. Everybody's reading appendix, but then if you read the actual motion, it talks schedule. I open up the motion to verify what you were saying. So there's a lot of typos going on, and your question about water sewer being disclosed in one, and then we're re-voting again. So those are all legitimate questions, I guess.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, they're not big issues, but you don't want to do something out of sequence and then have people say, well, gee, how can you approve the borrowing? How can you approve the CIP when you haven't approved the borrowing?
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, so to that point, Dennis, I would expect the 9.4 million for water to be totally pulled out of Article 5. That would make it very clean and clear. I suppose the way they could position it is in Article 5, approve the spend. In Article 9, approve the borrow, to ask, to do the borrowing transaction. But I'd rather have Article 9 represent approve the spend and the borrow. Article 5 is exclusive of the 9.4. That's how it is in the warrant, not in the motions. So
The reason they're split out is that the borrowing needs a 2/3 vote, whereas the CIP only needs a majority.
Majority.
Right. So in effect, Jack, it is approve the spending in Article 5, and the borrowing is the borrow in Article 9 requires a different it's a different voting mechanism. So that makes sense. I mean, you wouldn't approve the spend and not the borrow, but yeah, I understand that. So I have notes on Article 4. I'm sorry. I have notes on Article 5 around the 9.4 million. And also Article 4 around the disconnect between the revenue and on the motion and the expense in the warrant. So I'm going to have to follow up with you guys on that. Paul, I think you were starting to.
I just had a logistical request. I get the feeling there are going to be a number of revisions coming up, or just little tweaks.
Yep.
When you or Larry forward those to us, can you bundle everything into one email? So even if the warrant doesn't get updated, just so we've got everything in one place.
Yeah, I mean, we'll do that in as much as we can. A lot of it comes to us piecemeal as well, so we tend to just shoot it out to you as we get it. Particularly because we get stuff that says final, like, okay, here's the final. And then the next day, it's like,
Draft
yeah,
final.
here's the final. And then, so,
Today's
but in as
final.
much as we can, we'll try to do that, Paul.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
Hey, Mr. Seth, one observation. We received the motion yesterday, and then we received at about 4:15 today the final warrant article.
Yes.
So between those two documents and 2 different days, there's a lot of this slight disconnect here and there. So
Yeah.
so you know, I mean, just want to let you know, Paul, we are getting stuff piecemeal, and Seth says final. So we say final, we'll give it to you, but they say draft, we might hold back.
Fair enough.
You know, and then we get another final. So yeah.
Final
I hear what
V3.
Yep.
Yeah.
Free, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Seth, great. Get back to us with that from Bill. I was going to get it reorganized.
Absolutely.
I know I emailed you because you had questions about our final meeting for the reserve funding. I see the last Wednesday is going to be the 24th. I don't know. Did you talk to Bill about that? If he wants to wait till the very end of the month, or
I think he does, but for context, Tom, could you just give a quick synopsis of what you're referring to to the rest of the committee?
Our last meeting, where we were voting actually on both our budget as well as the reserve fund budget of $75,000, and that is reserved for unexpected billings that come in during the year, like say an unpaid bill from a previous year, or we've had overextended legal fees. I think that's on there this year for having to pay, and it gets cleaned up with in the past, before we had a really good veterans agent, we would get called on to be sending out like 30 grand out to veterans in town because the person who was doing it was not competent at the time to be able to file everything, and people needed money. So they would come to us at the last meeting of June, before the end of the fiscal year, with any of these things. Owing to the fact that even just 2 weeks ago, they were saying we still don't have all of our numbers back from the state as to how much revenue is coming back here, whether or not anything is going to be changing, anything that's going to come up, any late bills that people want to get in just before the end of the year that they were holding on to, they just found and pulled out. Like I said, we typically had that the last meeting or last Wednesday in June. Seeing us here, the 24th is the last Wednesday in June. That's 6 days before the end of the month. I just was curious as to whether or not there's one we should probably schedule for our next meeting, and two, whether or not Seth decided he was going to talk to Bill as to when he thought would be a good day to come to terms with the end of the fiscal year, any overdue stuff that we would be voting on.
Yeah. So 2 things there, Tom. One, the 75,000 you're referring to references the 2020 budget. So it's any items that would be charged against the 75,000 allocated to 2020. And 2, what the hell was my second point? I don't recall. So there was that. The reason that would come before us is because we approve that. Tom, is that fair to say that the advisory committee votes on that? Is the mechanism for approving that?
In the past, it's been it's usually the financial director and then Bill come together saying, okay, here we're mopping up what stuff that didn't get that were oversights or things came to us late that aren't budgeted for usually in the regular year for that fiscal year. So
right, but it's technically intended for unexpected, right, or unforeseen. Right. So it's
yeah, like about 4 or 5 years ago, we had I think a medical bill that got handed in by somebody who ended up leaving employment here and left a bill saying this is going to get paid. And it was like from the prior year. So you have to be able to this is one of those funds that will actually be able to take care of something like that.
Right. So
during when we had all the dog park stuff and we had overextended legal fees that year, we took a bunch of chunk money out of that then. And like I said in the past, before we had a more firm handling on veterans affairs, they used to come at the end of the year to mop up and take care of some veterans in town.
Which doesn't really feel like unexpected or unforeseen. It's like, right. That said, it's 70. It's relatively small. It's a procedural thing, but Tom, I guess I would expect that last Wednesday of the month, we would try to get a quorum to approve those expenses. And so I'll just make sure that Bill's prepared for that for the 24th to bring that to this committee. Otherwise, it doesn't happen, right? Because that's the end. So there's that item.
Unless we met on a day other than a Wednesday. I mean, if that's what I'm saying. Does the circumstance require us to? Does he feel the circumstance requires to meet on a different day than what would be our last Wednesday of the fiscal year? So.
Yeah, I don't think so. We're our bylaws, I think, or not our bylaws. Maybe our policy is intended to have Wednesday meetings. So I think that should be perfectly appropriate. That with 7 days left in the year, they should be able to provide us with any supposed unforeseen type of items. So. Yep. So if we are able to get a quorum on June 24th, we'd have that. And then while we're on the topic of our potential last meeting, one of the other things that we generally vote on before we adjourn for the season is leadership positions for the next year of advisory committee. So the 2021 advisory committee. Few of us have expiring terms, so we'll see how that plays out in terms of members dropping off, new members coming on. But generally, Tom, in the past, it's always been a chairperson, vice chair. Is there ever like a secretary type person, or is it just pretty much?
Yeah, I've been secretary in the past, and then they decided they were going to move I'm still taking minutes now, but they decided they're going to hire Matthew a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And then he dropped out. I took this back over again. They were going to have somebody to take over in March, and then all of a sudden the COVID broke out, and
we got somebody lined up, right? So was that the primary responsibility of the secretary then, was to take the minutes?
It had been, and but it was off and on. Sometimes if they got somebody from the town, somebody would hire somebody from the Council on Aging if there's a work thing. And some years it didn't, and anybody would take notes. But it's just chair and vice chair as of right now. Okay.
So those positions generally voted on at our last meeting, which I would be June. Looks like it would be June 24th again if we get a quorum. So if you have an interest or you're interested in, generally it's we have nominations. Somebody from the committee nominates somebody else. That's the way it works. A couple years ago, it was sort of like brought up like at the last minute. No one had really thought about it, and it was kind of like, I don't know, and everyone's looking at each other. It's kind of weird. So if you have thoughts about yourself or anyone else who's on the committee, just putting that, giving you something to think about. Personally, I'd be comfortable with any one of us. We're all capable, so there's that. So please keep that in mind.
Seth, is it you and Larry and Sharon all ending terms?
Yes. Geez.
Okay.
Sorry, I was yelling in the mic. So yeah.
Just so we know.
Sharon, your term is up too, right?
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Yes.
You said yes? Okay. All right. Bernard, are you on another full term here? Or what? Do you mind if we ask Bernard what your status is for?
Yes, actually, Seth, to your point, I have one more year after this one.
2021. Okay.
I have one more year, and I would be honored to be able to serve on this board.
All right, appreciate that, Tom. That's great to know. Thank you for your willingness to consider. Any other notes, questions, orders of business, or anything around town meeting or articles, or outside of what I have right now, that the follow-up that you'll receive from me in short order?
Seth, I'm not sure if it's as far as the the outcome, how many are planning to attend physically versus just via a call?
Sorry, Bernard, I missed that.
The meeting will still take place at the high school, no?
Oh, town meeting, yes, it will be, right now it's scheduled to be in the auditorium, yes.
Right. So my question is, how many of us are planning to physically be there versus trying to, or do we have to all? Oh, Tom is saying something. Tom?
No, I'll be
He's
there.
raising his hand that he'll be there.
Ask them all.
Oh,
All right, Bernard, what's the option, Bernard? Don't we have to be there?
Yes.
so
Yeah, I
we
know.
have to be there, right? So I guess the social distancing will be respected while be there. It's just that at least on my side, I've never been out since the past 3 months, so I don't even know what it feels like.
They might have us sitting in the front seats as opposed to being up on stage just to make room on the stage. Don't know
Oh,
yet.
okay.
You know, Bernard, one thing, I often use a face shield rather than a mask. And that's actually more comfortable.
Okay.
I saw
good to
you,
know.
Jack, I know.
Oh, that's right, you did, yes.
Right, I saw you. He looks like the SpaceX astronaut.
So I just made a note, when I check in with Bill, when I shoot him a note tonight, I'll ask him too about, social distancing town meeting. I expect he'll know more than I do. He may not know as much as Frank, Spillane, town, moderator, so, Bill may say either I'll check in or he'll check in with Frank, so let me look into that question as well and see what I can, see what kind of information I can get and pass on to you.
Thank you, Seth.
Yeah. All right, if there's nothing else, I make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
Tom seconds, all those in favor? That looks like 10 to me. All right, 10 in favor, Tom.
See,
0 opposed.
be safe. We'll see you at town meeting.
Have a good
Thanks
night.
so much,
Thanks.
everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Talk soon.
See you soon.
Right.
Take
See
care.
ya.
Forward to hearing from you.
Yep.